What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Action Sunday. I'm still kind of in the office. Well, I'm going to show you guys the new office, maybe in a separate video. But anyway, let's get down to business. This week, I'm going to continue with my trend of Death Wish movies. So this week, I'm going to look at Death Wish 2 from 1982. Say that 5 times fast. So how you follow up with possibly one of the best movies ever made, that's my opinion, in Death Wish with Charles Bronson, while you make a sequel. So how you follow up with that, and what you do? I feel like wasn't everything wrapped up in a bow in the first movie? Well, I think they kind of took an idea and just kind of follow the formula from the first movie. So instead of the movie being set in New York, it's now set in L.A., which is interesting because, wait, how'd they end up in L.A.? Because at the end of the first Death Wish movie, Paul Kersey, Charles Bronson, is told to get out of town, and he ends up in Chicago. In fact, the last shot of the movie, he's in a Chicago subway station. So how we get from L.A.? Well, the story actually tells you like, okay, so he starts in Chicago, somehow his whatever job he's taken now is landing in L.A., which according to legend, Bronson really preferred having to shoot in L.A. because it was close to his home, which is interesting. So I'm like, okay, shoot in L.A., okay, I like that. So that way, also, my opinion, I think he really wanted to do this with his then future wife, which was Jill Ireland, which she's in this movie, and man, like, I forgot how stunningly beautiful Jill Ireland was. And I know, these two were a match made in heaven. You could tell they loved each other. And it's weird. Again, I'm comparing this to Assassination, like, that I reviewed like a little over a year ago. And I'm noticing a trend here. Some movies, I guess he really wanted to work with his wife. But hey, okay, so that's unique. But what about the plot? Okay, so same formula. So somehow we're in L.A., his daughter's back. She's out of the asylum. She's gotten better. But yet, one crazy story they dropped is, wait, what happened to her husband or Paul's son-in-law? It's like, wow, can we just omit this character? Did they just retcon the fact that, okay, she was in this asylum, but like, she's no longer married, all this crap, but what the fuck? So, yeah, so now they're in L.A., he's got a new place. He's got a love interest in Jill Ireland. He's also got a housekeeper, Rosario. So what happens is same kind of thing happens. Buggers somehow get to his home. They terrorize the place. They end up killing the housekeeper, and somehow they kidnap his daughter. But then eventually she gets murdered in the most terrible way ever. And so, in a way, you feel like, okay, the muggers kind of didn't really do it, but again, I don't want to give much of the story away, but it's really interesting. So, and yeah, essentially, the vigilante starts to come out. It's interesting. It's interesting saying. Of course, I kind of like it a little bit better, even though like there's more parts that hit more home here. But then again, there's a lot of uncomfortable moments peppered throughout this. Okay, which again, yeah, I know. Same kind of thing. I'm going to sound like a broken record since I said in the last review about in the first one. A lot of the same themes kind of echo today, and it's kind of scary. It's sad, but it's truth. But again, it just shows you, okay, what would you do? Again, if that happened to your daughter, your wife, your housekeeper, whatever, and the police aren't going to do a damn thing, I'd fight back. I'd help someone. If you saw someone. Also, here's another thing. At least they did this right scene. There's a scene where there's a couple that's somehow ambushed by muggers in a parking garage, and they start raping the girl, and you're like, what are you gonna do in that situation? Well, you step in, and of course he stepped in the biggest way. He shot 2 of them in the freaking back. That's crazy. Then he chases one guy down and just freaking annihilates him in the most crazy ass way. So again, you start to see the formula from the first movie start to seep and bleed into this movie here, and it kind of works. But then of course you're like, okay, I'm glad that they did this, but yeah, this is where I take the side of the couple that was almost raped to death. That I would say, yeah, I agree. That guy was a hero. Why would you arrest the vigilante when the guy was doing the right thing? He stepped in, he saved that person, and yet you're deciding to go after the guy. Well, again, justice has to be upheld. Again, it's all about the logic and the story. But yeah. interesting stuff to think about. The rest of the movie feels good. There's again like the final act just hits me in all it feels he finally gets it. Finally, is able to right the wrongs. He proposes to Jill Ireland's character, but in the last scene, it's like, okay, what can he do? So he wants to put the last guy away, but then all of a sudden the truth comes out, and you just slowly see that oh my goodness, this change, and it just hits you home, and you're like, oh God, this is how it ends. I'm like, this is it. She's gone. Or no one's happy, but then again, it's. I think they were trying really hard to make it more realistic and gritty, and turn Paul Kersey into a total badass, into a real superhero kind of thing. But here's the thing: he's just an ordinary guy that just weren't to defend for himself. And again, so many good themes to carry over. But yeah, I know I'm just scratching the surface. But there's a lot to behold here, and I feel like this is a good sequel, but it's not the best. Okay, again, but I understand they were trying to take the movie take this movie in a different direction, let alone the series. Again, I have a couple more movies to find. There were 5 of them, 5 Death Wishes. Oh boy, I have my work cut out for me. But overall, this sequel feels good, but not the best. I felt like if they ironed out some things, again, maybe give some more screen time to some of the other characters, some of the more players like his daughter and maybe Jill Ireland's character, and definitely Frank Arden, what's his name? The guy from the first movie, the police chief in the first one. He's back. He's here to help Paul, but then something happens to him, and it's like you never see him again, and you're like, oh come on, they should have at least kept the ball going. They should have kept some resemblance from the movie going. If they were going to try to turn this into a franchise, I felt like there were some things I think they could have changed and made it better. But overall, a great viewing experience. I think you guys should give this movie a watch. I, of course, thanks to DirecTV, I found it on demand. Man, it was on HBO. But if you want to give this movie a watch, give it a watch. And if I have to give this movie a score, I'm going to rank this I'd probably give this maybe a solid 7, maybe. That I'm gonna leave it at that. I want to rank it a little higher, but I feel like this is good. This is at least above average. Okay, it's an above average sequel, I will say. All right, so that does it for this week. Let me know what you think. Thumbs up the video, subscribe to my channel, stay tuned for some more awesome and exciting content.